Hello, my name is Tony Chan. I'm reporting for TelecomTV. Today with me is Angus Robertson, who is the Vice President of Segment Marketing for Networks and Applications for Spirent Communications. But he is here as a representative of the Metro Ethernet Forum. Angus, thanks for joining us.
Sure, happy to be here.
So how does the Metro Ethernet Forum see the SDN opportunity for telcos and their networking and business?
Sure, absolutely. So software-defined networking and also network function virtualization are really transformational technologies for the traditional service providers and carriers, and even the cloud service providers. So what SDN does is abstract the application layer from the control layer, and again from the infrastructure layer. And what's interesting about that is when you separate the control layer from the infrastructure layer, you've essentially separated the network operating system from the data forwarding plane. And this means that service providers can deploy their networks in a much more efficient and effective way. So today, or over the past few days, just listening to some of the operators and carriers who've talked about their field trials and first deployments of software-defined networking, it's quite exciting to see and hear that the service providers have actually deployed this self-service capability with software-defined networking. So what that means is that an end customer, an end enterprise, can actually go to the carrier's website. They can specify the type of bandwidth they want, from which point to which point, and even the quality of service or the class of service, and then purchase. And right on that website, they see the price that they want to pay. And what happens is that circuit is then provisioned in seconds. Now this is transformational because before this would take weeks or months. The average I've heard is about 45 days. So you're talking about 2 months versus seconds. So this is truly transformational and a good first step for software-defined networking. I think and this is as British Telecom said, I think the next big step is making the business application SDN aware. So when the business application can actually go to the network and describe what they need from the network and dynamically provision that from the network without human intervention, that's the holy grail. But I think we're a little ways away from seeing that yet.
Okay. Obviously, the MEF is very involved in the carrier business of
Absolutely.
selling connectivity. So what steps are being taken in the development of new carrier infrastructure, either on the wireless side or on the wireline side?
Sure. So what we've seen is a real pickup on the wireless side in the area of the evolved packet core. So when it comes to network functions virtualization, this is termed VEPC or virtual EPC. And the reason for this is, as the Cisco Virtual Networking Index is reporting, the traffic from the mobile traffic is growing at about 60% year on year. So it's huge growth for the mobile traffic. And Ericsson even said that there's around 1 billion smartphones today, and over the next 5 years, they expect to see more than 5 billion smartphones. So it's just an explosion of smartphones and mobile traffic and all those cloud service applications that are going on those smartphones. So what does that result in for the wireless service providers? They're looking at this insane increase in traffic and wondering how do they handle all that, especially when it comes to surges in internet traffic where at any particular time they could see double or triple the amount of mobile traffic on their network. And this would be from a natural disaster or a special event like the World Cup, for example. So in order to handle that additional traffic, what these wireless service providers are looking at doing is deploying technologies like NFV and SDN. So in the case of NFV, what they want to have is this orchestration capability and this analytics capability that can monitor and look at the network. And when they see these surges in mobile traffic, dynamically spin up additional virtual evolved packet core capability in a data center that's close to where this traffic is surging. And then use the software-defined networking capabilities in their network to actually route that additional mobile traffic to that additional capability in the data center. So that's an area where we see a lot of trials and a lot of proof of concepts happening right now. And I think by the end of the year, we'll start to see some deployments, and certainly next year in 2015.
Right. So how do you think SDN is actually impacting the data center itself, since you mentioned data centers?
Sure. These mega data centers have been built primarily by the large cloud service providers, but now the service providers themselves are building out these huge data centers, and it's really to handle all this additional traffic. And what we've seen from the enterprises that purchase cloud services and network connectivity from the cloud service providers and the network service providers is over the last few years, enterprises have moved to these public and private cloud services. So it's been a very fast moving target where now the enterprises, there was a recent study that was done that said about 80% of enterprises are using either public or private cloud services or a hybrid type approach. And this is where the carrier Ethernet technology can come into play. So the Metro Ethernet Forum over the past 10 years has done a lot of work in defining Ethernet services. And these Ethernet services can be used to connect data centers and also to provide wide area network connectivity for those enterprises. So what these enterprises are doing is that they get these cloud service providers from, the cloud services from these different cloud service providers, and they also are in different data centers because they might want to partner with a particular company and they want to be close to that company or be in the same data center in that company as that company is to get good performance. So that means that any one enterprise is going to have cloud services or presence in many different data centers. So it's very important for that enterprise to have connectivity to all those data centers and have good connectivity between the data centers. And this is generally done using Ethernet services or carrier Ethernet services from carrier Ethernet 2.0 as defined by the Metro Ethernet Forum. But what the Metro Ethernet Forum hasn't done yet, and what we're very focused on right now, is providing the APIs to the orchestration layer so that the enterprises and the cloud service providers and the network service providers can actually provision that data center interconnect and that wide area network connectivity as needed. And I think all this great work that's been done by the Metro Ethernet Forum for carrier Ethernet 2.0 is ready to go. We just need to make those APIs available to the controller and the orchestration layer.
Okay, and how does that connect into something like OpenFlow, which is the kind of the industry de facto protocol that people are talking about?
Sure. So when it comes to software-defined networking, the protocols that will be used are still in question. Now, OpenFlow is obviously the leading contender, and we expect to see OpenFlow remain a first priority choice for many companies. And actually, for the Metro Ethernet Forum perspective, we're agnostic to the type of technology that you want to use. So the Metro Ethernet Forum has more than 222 members. 130 of those are service providers, and the rest are network solution providers. But what that group of people have done is really define the Ethernet services that they want to sell to their enterprise customers, and what the attributes and what the information models are for those Ethernet services. So OpenFlow and SDN controllers like Open Daylight are really enablers for doing bandwidth on demand for Ethernet services and quality of service on demand for Ethernet services. The good thing is that Metro Ethernet Forum has already defined what it means for those 8 different types of Ethernet services. So I think OpenFlow is really an enabler for the MEF.
Okay. Angus, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony. It was a pleasure.